is a great space to now come up with solutions.
Top 20 VC jobs.
The carry has 5x, 10x in it. It's a long run.
Most relevant skill.
Be bold about it.
It helps you grow in every position.
The question is only who's the best.
Are you concerned with the fact that
you are taking a lot of risks?
What is the most demanded job in VC?
The sky is the limit when it comes to salary.
Andreas Oetker.
Yes, like the bad pizza.
I thought that maybe you were related to the pizza.
Yeah, in some way. It's a small family, but I don't get any money from that.
So you are related to the pizza family.
Yeah, in some ways. Like I think three corners is say in a family tree. Yeah, it's there.
Funny.
Yeah.
Vodka. Nice. Well, thanks a lot for coming today to What's in Store show. I didn't tell you, but you're the first guest of the third season. So thanks a lot for doing this welcoming party, as you see. Where is it?
In great heights, for sure.
In great heights. But I think it was a great interview because you're an expert in talent. Let's call it talent so far. But what do you think that the people who are listening to this, what are the main takeaways that they would get from you?
Well, I think the market is changing quite rapidly, more than maybe ever. I think there are different reasons for it, and let's see if we can tackle a few of them.
Nice. If you want, we can start by your trajectory and why are you qualified to talk about talent. So can you just do a brief summary of what you've done so far?
Yeah, sure. I started when e-commerce was really trending, and ProSiebenSat at one also was eager to invest in that sector. Those days, my first teams I was actually able to support as an internal headhunter were the M&A team at ProSieben and the digital strategy team. So a lot of insights there, a lot of really great deals the team did those days. Nowadays it's called Newcom. Amorelie, Flaconi, Verivox, all part of the ProSieben group. So this was my start at a TV company into the startup sector. So I was very fortunate, learned a lot. And then everyone else was coming from headhunting. Everyone told me not to do that ever. And I thought I had to learn it the hard way. So I went into the first agency after ProSieben and more or less never left. I worked for a bigger digital headhunter in Hamburg, also offices in Berlin. I was supposed to open the first Munich one. I tried twice. First time Zurich and Paris were more on the prior list, and then the second time Corona hit. So 2 attempts, but still a lot of great projects we were able to deliver together. I had a first stint in the VC world at Avantis Group, where Picos, Pelion, and Pacificor are also part of it. So was able to also gather some experience on that end. It was intense. It was really, really great. I loved every hour of it. And yeah, now I'm with Talentry. It's a 10-year-old headhunting agency specialized in climate tech and impact tech. 10 years means it's not just something that is in right now, but Julian, our founder, was quite a pioneer regarding that headhunting space. And if I look outside now, it's quite green, but we know that it's not the case everywhere, and we have a big problem. The temperatures also tell us this story each and every day those days. So yeah, Talentry is supporting startups in that sector, and a lot of things are happening, and I think it changed quite a bit over the last 4 years with a big hype, with some radio silence month, and now I think the sector is kind of pivoting towards resilience tech, how they call it. So resilience tech also I think is now the way of VCs and startups pivoting towards our independency regarding materials, importing all the raw earth from all around the world. And also, of course, there's dual use or defense tech that is also going into that sector now. A lot of happening is there. I mean, Helsing just announced a huge round last week. And then we have quantum and many more that are now really gaining traction and attention. And yeah, that's also an interesting part of it.
Nice, nice, very interesting. Why being so focused? Because someone could tend to think that headhunting is about soft or being able to identify talent. Huge part of it with soft skills. So that's my understanding. So why focusing on climate tech and impact tech when you could say I'm a bit broader?
Yeah, I think focus is always important, and it makes you an expert on that field. And if you know about the profiles, where they come from, where are your hunting grounds, where are good universities, where are good first and second companies that are really great in yeah, educating talent and making them to experts. I think that's a huge advantage from our side. And on the other hand, we want the smartest people working on that problem, and that's climate. So for us, our vision and mission is to make that happen, not losing them to all the others out there, because I think this problem needs our attention and it needs it now.
How do you manage to get the great talent to this field?
I think a lot of people over the last 10 years were working on products and with business models that didn't really fulfill them entirely. And now they want something that is more meaningful. And I think that our industry with our problem is a great space to now come up with solutions. And you hear that a lot. A lot of people are actually willing to cut down salaries. So I guess this is a strong sign from the market and makes me hopeful.
Nice. And how do you compete? Because what I've seen in the headhunting slash talent space is that few individuals that have a lot of impact on LinkedIn, for example, they tend to publish all the offers that are relevant to your profile, right? So they go and they're like networkers. They don't do that for money. They just have, or newsletter, like here you have the newsletter of the top 20 BC jobs in LA, whatever. Um, do you feel that this is a competition? This could we talk about community versus headhunting or something like that?
Yeah, sure. I think it's competition in some way for sure. But I mean, there are a lot of roles that are quite niche and maybe quite high up the ladder. Sometimes even with someone still working on that job without knowing that there should be a replacement taking place sooner or later. So I think headhunting really is a really helpful catalyst for recruiting. If you have a problem that you didn't solve over the last 2 to 3 weeks, or you have a problem that needs to be fixed really, really quickly with a perfect hire. Because what we do is just we are faster, we can allocate all of our time towards your problem, and we can solve it together faster. And I think with more options that we can actually also deliver in that time, you have a higher quality of hire. So you're hedging also against the risk of not having someone at all after 3 month time. And sometimes you just can't take that risk, right? If you can take that risk and you have all the time in the world to find the right person, go for it, right? And then you mentioned community against agencies or headhunting. There are a lot of roles that are made for community, or as I say it in German, it's actually the best word, Personalberatung versus Personalvermittlung. Then it's more the Vermittlungspart, right? So sharing CVs and some will stick. Sharing your community with a lot of different options. How many of those options are really made for you? We are trying to tailor pick, not tailor make, the talents out there that actually have proven to having been in that problem space adjacent to it at least, right? And have proven a track record of having dealt with a similar problem over the last 5 years and solved it very successfully. And that's, I think, our approach. I think each role, each industry, each niche product needs different people towards marketing, towards HR, towards sales. And we are trying to tailor pick the perfect ones for you out there.
And the good thing for the other side, so for the employee, is that it's good for them because, and prove me wrong, your business model would be like if you manage to get a person at 1 million euros per year, you get a cut on that 1 million. Is that your main and single business model, or are there many, or are they different?
Yeah, no, we are incentivized in placing people and we get a fair cut of it. I would love to have more of those 1 million profiles. But in the startup world, that's a unicorn as well when it comes to salary. We are not working in the US. Maybe you can find a lot of people there, but not in Europe.
But now that you mention, um, let's set the boundaries then for salary ranges. Could you give me a rough estimate? I don't know how, because either we can go VC and startup, or we can go by age group, or we can go by number of ages of experience. How would you categorize, just to start with, to be able to say some kind of ranges that could be helpful for the people?
Yeah, I think those days in junior years, if you are in the very demanded departments like sales, you can reach the 6 figures quite fast, right? I mean, in sales, as the demand has never really struggled, it just was steep ever since I can imagine, and is, I think, the department that needs still the most people, especially with SaaS, and then also now with the tech products that are also more hardware heavy or in the middle, so middleware. You need really smart people who are able to sell your product, explain it, and are on the one hand keen enough for the sales department because it's a rough atmosphere, right? And I think a lot of that money that goes into the salary is kind of a painkiller as well, and that keeps you motivated. And on the other hand, you really need to understand what you're actually selling. And I think this is why sales and the sales department those days is still skyrocketing when it comes to the salary benchmarks. I was quite shocked when I had the first junior sales consultant telling me that he would like to actually get more than 100K after 2 or 3 years. I mean, that was... I mean, Munich, Salesforce, and the big American companies, they kind of had that salary range quite early on, and the best ones were actually hunted by them. And then this, had a quite big impact into the Munich ecosystem, but then also spiraled across Europe. And I think that's one, right? I mean, when it comes to startups, I would say if you have the first C-level addition to your founding team and you're still in seed rounds, you can't really afford such big tickets. Yeah. So you will try to also incentivize them by VSOP, ESOP, or real shares. But I think most founders have to actually accept that this C-level addition will get paid more than they are. Yeah. They have a bigger equity in the company. They have a bigger long-term incentive, and I mean, with dilutions, you have to calculate that into the equation as well. But this is, I think, a very hard first step for a founder to actually accept that. But I think it makes sense, and you have to see it from that point of view.
We've seen in our portfolio companies, for example, that if the CTO was not in the founding team, because normally it is, and he is, because normally he's a male, by the way, if it is not, he would be earning even sometimes double than the founders. Sometimes it's like you see the ranges in the P&L, and the CEO I don't know.
I mean, a lot of founders are paying themselves 60K, 70K for the first 5 years. That's quite normal. And then, yeah, if you hire your head of sales and you hire your CTO, you're gonna talk about different
If the
different
junior in
numbers.
sales wanted 100K, your head of sales will want probably double or something like
Yeah,
that.
maybe you should not hire the junior sales person with 100K, but the market dictates the structure there, and yeah, sales is really insane at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And if you compare that to the VC, how much an analyst would make?
I think, I mean, there are not a lot of analyst positions in VCs, and if it comes to those, they still expect you to have at least 1 or 2 years in a top tier strategy consultancy or in banking, right? So I would say that most junior people in VCs normally have had 1 to 2 years of experience already, and then the salary is at around 80 or 75 at least, um, including carry most of the times already.
This including carry, you mean?
On top of that, there's carry. Yeah.
And very interesting because I've had the discussion actually this morning, completely off topic, but not off topic actually, it's about this. But um, in Spain, for example, analyst wouldn't have carry at the beginning. And in here, I feel in Germany, they almost, at least top tier, they do. And like, how should an analyst measure if the carry that they're given to him or to her is well measured, or should they fight or negotiate about it?
That's a good question. I've never done those calculations myself. So I guess what's very important is asking the right questions and be bold about it. But on the other hand, I think those jobs are really competitive. A lot of people want to actually get to the VC side, and the teams are getting smaller all over the place. So what I can see is that on the CVC side, but also on the VC side, the new funds are smaller, and the teams thus are also, yeah, pivoting towards smaller teams, smaller team sizes, and that's why I think the competition for those positions is quite something now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've even seen this trend of no analyst. We don't work with analysts. You've seen that too, or
Yeah, I mean, if you look at those teams, most of them have interns from the Ivy universities, and they kind of are doing a lot of good work as well. And they want to get their internships into their CV. So I think those are kind of the new analyst position. And then you tend to actually hire people who are able to, see through a deal end to end quite early on. You're more going towards the 2 to 3 years of experience already. And then you have the big funds that are, I think, taking on more junior people. And then you have the smaller ones that are also really lean regarding the team setup, and they hire more senior there.
before jumping to the next role, that would be more in last 3 years experience. When you mentioned the role of sales, I feel that it's a role that is very difficult to assess, because how do you know how good of a salespeople someone is?
Yeah, it's the most important, but also most tricky one, because good salespeople can sell themselves really, really well. How to actually distinguish those who are just pretenders and those who are really doing and walking the talk. So yes, I think it's a really great question. I think we have to ask a lot of questions to actually filter them out. But I think I'm always trying to get into their numbers and their achievements, like really deep down, and then trying to assess like what was your role in that deal. Did you only take part of it as a spectator, or did you really manage it through yourself? And those are, I think, the deep dive questions you have to really dig into. before coming up with a resume.
And this leads me to the question of how do you due diligence skills in people? How deep can you due diligence skills?
This is silence.
Awkward silence. Or do you trust your gut feeling? I don't know how it goes.
I think gut feeling is always there as well, but no, we try to really figure out with our clients what are the most important key skills, right? Like really trying to pinpoint the key success factors of that role. And then there can be culturally something that they need to actually work in the team. There can be soft skills, there can be hard skills. And trying to have the MVP of must-have criteria and then all the nice-to-have criteria around it. Then we shape our interview process towards those prioritizations. And then also we try to enable our clients to compare the candidates towards those skills as transparently as possible. I'm a big fan of the scorecard, so really trying to get very transparent about each and every assessment towards a balanced scorecard, for example, where you also have the prioritization in it already, and everyone can fill it out unbiased, and then you have it all in one file and compare it.
Can you explain a little bit more about the scorecard?
Let's be very easy there. You have two skills. One is weighted with 50, the other with like 5. And you have 5 founders who are all assessing this one person. And everyone is giving this person a score from 0 to 100. And then at the end, you have a lot of different scores. The more they are actually in the same realm, the more aligned the founders are and they have the same opinion. But sometimes they really have a complete different opinion about people. And what I think is most interesting about it is not that someone is right or someone is wrong, but talking about the perceived skill and the experience there, and how they actually got to that assumption, also helps with the alignment within the founding team, and also helps to actually make sure that there are no blind spots, because 5 different people see 5 different angles, and this actually makes sure that you're not missing out on a huge red flag, for example.
And okay, so I understand that the due diligence, if I call it due diligence just to maintain the type of vocabulary, do you always do reference code?
Well, not always, but I think on the executive level, we are tending towards it. And for us, it's very important that we pick out the referees. So we are not asking the candidate to give 3 names, because this is bullshit in, bullshit out. I mean, how high are the odds that those people would actually say something negative about this person?
Limited.
Sometimes it's still happening, but then you're like, why? Why did you pick that one? I mean, not a very smart move. Very honest, but not very smart. But that's why I try to mitigate that risk of that huge bias that you actually buy into, by trying to really dig into their profile, and telling them, okay, you worked with this and this person in this and this company for 2 years. We would like to speak with this peer, with this superior, with this teammate. And that's how you are actually able to get more objective feedback than their 3 best friends from Personio.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Jumping back to where, so we were in analyst, student, in intern. Now we jump a little bit more, so it's like 3 plus 3 years experience. I would say 3 to 8, something like that could make sense. So in BC would be associate, BP, senior associate, and in startup could be anything. So how do we categorize people in here?
Well, I haven't had too many roles on the CVC side on that level. It normally starts a little bit later on partner and before that. All the other roles are easily filled with their job board and their network as well. To be honest about that.
Super interesting, because I thought
I mean, the competition is still really high, and then on the partner level, to get a partner to actually really change from one VC to the other, a little bit more political and a little bit harder actually, and that's why we are more involved in those roles. I think on the more junior and mid-level roles, yeah, everyone's in. There's a huge talent pool out there internationally as well. You're not really bound to German speaking only. You can hire talent from all over the world. And that's why I think it's quite easy there to get top talent to your VC. The question is only who is the best and which one can you actually afford.
And yeah, that's a difficult question.
Yeah,
Also
and I think like when it comes to the senior roles, it's not that the salary is exponentially rising, but the carry and your long-term incentive system, I think, is more important for you as well. You want to have skin in the game. You know what you can do. You know about your network. You know about the deals you made the last 5 to 10 years, and that's why you want to have a huge kicker when it comes to carry.
And how do you take profit of that? Like, I imagine also in bigger roles, like even if the salary is lower, but the carry is higher, it would be interesting for the employee, but maybe not for you because you take the cut from the salary, no? And or how?
Yeah, I think the carry has 5x, 10x in it, right? Because that's what you're trying to make as a VC anyway, and it's a long run, right? 3 to 7 years, I would say. The last couple of years, there were not too many exits and not too many secondaries, but still, I mean, it's worth the wait. And there are different metrics there as well. Some are having the overall performance of the fund. Some are incentivized in each deal they are making, and then there are mixes of that, of course. But some people or some teams are really getting cuts from the performance of the entire fund, and some are only incentivized if you do the deal with Rio de Janeiro and they are performing really well. Then you get this nice kicker when you actually are able to exit it.
But that's not weighted in your part when you do a deal between some people in it, no?
No, it's not. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I thought that you would. No, that's okay. So then, associate makes sense. So because they're really high competition, so no really that much of an edge. If we go to the startup side, imagining all the potential roles, sales again, is it like the top tier or developers?
It used to be CTO, right? I mean, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, the CTO role in the C level, I think, was the one that was paid the most. But now it changed. I think now it's really the CCO role.
Wait, but I'm like, if I compare to the associate level type of, so 3 to 5, 7 years experience, how can I translate that to a startup? Because I guess the CTO role would be a bit more experience or not really?
Okay, you mean now the mid-level roles on the startup side? Yeah. I think like most of the roles are still around that 6 figures, right? Head of role. If you compare it to like 5 years of experience, I would say it's the head of level, right? In some startups, some startups and scale-ups need more experience there, but the head of level, despite sales, is still around the 6 figures. I mean, there are also exceptions always, especially when it comes to really niche profiles in supply chain, etc. but I think that would be more or less the ballpark.
Funny because I would have imagined that, well, maybe it's just memories of 2021, that this role with, let's say, 5 years experience is perfect for certain technical profiles that then they will ask you a lot of money. And because the expertise is difficult to find somewhere else, you will need to hire them, and then you will need to pay the most by far, even more than sales. But this assumption is wrong.
No, it's not wrong. I mean, if you need 10x developers from Silicon Valley, you're gonna pay that price for sure.
But it's not common, I mean, in that region to see something like this, like the money going to technology.
Yeah, if it gets to self-driving, self-flying, etc., you need really good people there with a lot of experience, and you buy in. Yeah, not anymore. Dark humor there, but yeah, I mean, engineers, for example, like really like 10x engineering, or now AI developers who have 5 years of experience in really developing and bringing AI tools to life. You don't have them in Europe so often. It's more or less a tool of like the last 3 to 4 years. People were experimenting with it, but really in a live environment, I think that was more something from Google to the really big tech companies in the US. If you are looking for that, you're going to have a really tough experience in the entire hiring cycle.
Yeah, but then they will need to contact you.
Yeah,
Probably, because then otherwise.
I mean, if you are interested in climate tech those days and you're in Silicon Valley right now, maybe there is kind of a push that you're feeling towards Europe. I think in the deep tech segment, not a lot of American talent or talent that is working in the US right now are actually moving to Europe. I mean, it's maybe half the salary that they are able to pay here.
Yeah. And before jumping to more principal roles, so plus 8 years experience, how do you nourish this database of people? Because I guess that your core or your secret sauce would rely on your pool of people. No, is that the case? And how do you nourish it?
Well, I would say the best database out there is still LinkedIn. And we're trying to approach each position with each client more or less from scratch to really make sure that we have the right solution space for that client. And we are aligning with calibration candidates. We are talking a lot about ideas we have and people out there to really align ourselves with our client and also with their investors regarding their point of view on that position. And then we find a lot of people on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is always the most up-to-date database, right? I mean, everyone is updating their LinkedIn. If you have a huge database over 10 years, it's outdated. And LinkedIn is quite rigorous about getting those updates via all the tools out there automatically each month. But of course, then you know a lot of people. You know a lot of those people who actually came up in the search results that you would like to approach, and that makes it easier for you to actually get in contact with them again. And then it's all about which experience did they have with you before. If they liked your style, if they felt professionally consulted by you as well, you have a huge response rate and you speak to them within minutes. And even if they are not willing to change, they have their network. And then you're catalyzing your network and then you can leverage that as well. But identifying the people is LinkedIn. Getting in touch with them is then your network and your long-term work that was quality assurance regarding the candidate experience then pays off.
But then are you concerned with the fact that, let's put it in a very simple way, but a really fine-tuned scroller in LinkedIn can replace the job of headhunting then? Because if it's your main source and you really get some fine-tuned stuff, it will be like I read all your posts, I read everything you did, blah, blah, blah. These are your top 3 candidates. And then there are no headhunters or anything. Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, I was concerned about that since I started at ProSieben, because I thought LinkedIn could do that in 5 years' time, totally on their P&L. They never touched that topic, or not really, because recruiters were paying so much money, and GDPR and all the data protective topics are kind of enabling big corporates to do so. And of course, other AIs could now tap into that, and they're already doing it. And I think that's kind of first hedge. I think it works easier for junior profiles, and only if those positions are publicly known.
These are very good points, because sometimes the positions are not publicly known. That's true.
Sometimes you would actually tell your competition what you're actually having in mind. Sometimes you would actually tell the current role owner that you're planning on replacing him or her. So this is one edge, and then it also comes to trust, right? Like, who are you actually briefing on those roles? I mean, AI agents could do that in maybe 2 to 3 years. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying that. Yeah, maybe a month. But who are you trusting with all the data you have? Because the executive roles, you really need to kind of strip down your numbers, your visions, your milestones, your challenges, and you really need to feel comfortable with your agent. And then you also need to be comfortable with how this agency is treating your candidates along the process. And I think trust there is kind of a hedge. And this network that is actually enabling you to find the right people faster, and then this trust you build over 10 years is maybe not at risk in the first or 2 iterations of the AI. Let's see about that in 2 years' time.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense.
And I think it's the same actually when it comes to developer roles right now, right? I mean, the AI is also catalyzing the entire development scene by 10x, I would say. Like, everyone is so much more efficient. So you need less people to actually solve a problem. And thus, an experienced senior developer right now doesn't need 5 to 10 people in his team or her team to actually solve those problems, but just needs one AI tool. And I think this is a huge risk, because who is now developing the developers? If there's no junior position for the next 5 years because you just don't need them at the moment, who is then the leader in 5 years, or an experienced developer in 5 years? So I think there's going to be a huge conundrum and a challenge us also when it comes to developing talent in the tech industry, in the tech segment. And this, I think, can also translate to many other departments sooner than later. The question there is a developer a better CFO in 3 years than a CFO is now? Or is it vice versa? Does everyone who has a lot of experience in his field need to really now deep dive into AI to enable his or her department?
Or everyone, we're just, all of us, we will become prompt engineers at a certain degree, and that's it.
Yeah, I think we should. I think we have to. I mean, it's not new that you have a big problem if you're not using it, and you should kind of really allocate a lot of your time towards that skill set. Prompt engineering is one of those that will amplify your efficiency, and also has a huge impact on the quality of the output.
Yeah, yeah. Let's jump then to the principal role. So we're talking about people, maybe it might make sense, more than 8 years experience, maybe. Maybe sometimes, of course, we're talking very generically. But What are the ranges? The ranges in here. Do you also get contact with this?
Yeah, I think like it really has a huge range, also depending on the fund size, but it starts at 200 and ends at 800. So that's quite a big range. Also depends on the experience, the track record, and in which phase for which function you're actually trying to hire this person. Is it more towards fundraising or deal making? So I think this is a difference. On the one hand, you're trying to get a lot of LPs to invest into your next fund.
Then you will pay more, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, this is more crucial. It's harder to actually get the money in than allocating it into a diverse but successful portfolio. And it's also more network dependent, right? The better your network is in that direction, the faster you're going to be and the more successful you're going to be, because you have a lot of trust and you know the right people who know the right people. When it comes to deal making, I mean, this is kind of a new cohort of new startup founders every year. So this is less, how you say, less limited. There's no, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if we take this to the startup side, probably we're talking already about Series A or beyond, I guess, because to hire someone that is more than 8 years experience at the very beginning, I guess, is difficult unless it's part of the founding team or late founder member or something like this. So what is someone who's in there? What other type of roles?
But if you talk about the CCO, CTO, CMO level, also sometimes if you're a Series B or C, maybe you have a CHRO as well. I think you are in the 150s plus bonus plus shares.
How much shares?
Completely depends on the valuation you're having at the moment. But I would say like it's Series A and B. Normally it's more in the 1 digits or below.
Low digits or medium digits? Or we're talking about 8% or 2%?
More 2. Like if it's a really crucial role, sometimes still 5 are on the table, but this is really rare. And yeah. I mean, it really depends on the importance of that role regarding the next 3 years. Sometimes those roles are really crucial, and you don't have a lot of people out there, and then the founders go all in because you have a better advantage and a bigger cake if it works out, than having a little bit more percentages of a really small one, or none if you are not figuring out that problem. I mean, what we are looking at right now more and more often is the founding teams a little bit more homogeneous than they used to be like 5-6 years ago in our space, because you have a lot of PhD students who actually figured out something that they think is an MVP and the market needs, and 3 PhD students from the same university and the same department, they have quite the same skill set, and they need a C-level addition a little bit earlier than maybe our C-level founders from ecom, 2 people from consultancies, tagging along with 1 really smart CTO. I mean, that was the founder team 10 years ago. So that changed, and in all the diversity we are talking about, and also stressing the importance of it, those founding teams are now actually less diverse than they used to be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Mm. And before jumping to the partner role, what is the most demanded job in BC in general, in BC and CVC?
I think it's this purple squirrel who has seen everything, is able to do a deal end to end, has the perfect network with the perfect also industrial focus, and is not a partner yet. So you can still pay this person, but yeah, he's doing actually, or she's doing everything on their own. I think this is the purple squirrel in VC, especially in the very early stages. Two partners, they need someone to take care of a lot because they are more fundraising and they don't need to allocate, or they can't allocate too much time on deal making on the other side all the time. So they are looking for that perfect addition to their team, but they're not having a third partner position there. So I think this is one that elevates every VC, but yeah, you have to find someone who is just there, has a glass ceiling above him or her, and then it might work and might be a great match.
Interesting. And what would be the most demanded job in startup?
Sales.
Sales again.
Yeah, I would say head of sales at the moment, I think, is really the most.
Yeah, it's true that in many startups at the even in series A, the polishment of the sales funnel is super poor in many of the cases, and that's why, because normally the founding team takes the role of the sales, right? So they do everything, and I work 24 hours a day. Okay, good. But then they need to, at some point, if they want to scale, they realize that they need to professionalize that with a head of sales or someone in sales.
Yeah, I think a lot of founders really want to get rid of the sales part as well, and I think that's very dangerous, because you really have to make sure that the MVP really is an MVP, that there's a real product market fit already, and you know which persona you're actually addressing. If you don't know that, it's really hard to actually hire the perfect fit, because you are taking a lot of risks regarding that person, because this person will run in the direction that he or she feels more comfortable with and has the best network in. But there's this opportunity risk that other segments might be way better, regarding the performance and the potential, but you're never giving it a try. So I think the head of sales role, if you hire that, should be a very generic role, with someone who tests, iterate, learn, fails a lot, and not trying to actually prove that their network is good for that product in the first place, because you're just having too many blind spots, regarding the market potential. And that's why I think the founders should really keep that in their role as long as possible. It helps you a lot with iterating the product. It helps you a lot with pricing. It helps you a
You're
lot.
not good selling, because I've seen that some of the technical founders, they're not good at selling, and they keep on and keep on and keep on it, and it's like, dude.
Yeah, if you're not a good salesman, you should realize that as soon as possible and then get help. Yeah, for sure.
It's funny because you can always, in this, the startup ecosystem is so broad that you can always find a counterexample for everything, actually. But yeah, but anyway, the answer is the answer that it means. What is the most demanded job in startup? The head of sales.
Still sales, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Then let's jump to the partner level. So how is a partner? What's the years of experience, salary range?
Well, then you're a founder again, right? So if you decide to actually get into the partner game and raise a fund by your own, you're down at minimum wage again. And then you're the founder. You are at your 50K. You have to actually calculate how long you are able to survive on that level, and how much money you actually made and are well invested midterm, short term. So you have a long breath. And then on the other end, I guess it's limitless if you are if you're hired by one of the bigger VCs out there, and you're a partner. The sky is the limit when it comes to salary.
I love that quote. I will use that quote for some social media. I think the sky's the limit when you're a partner. And is this applicable to CVCs? So the equivalent to a partner would be probably an MD or something like this. Is it equivalent?
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, and then you have corporates behind the salary benchmarks. You have the board members up there who are your first benchmark limit, right? And yeah, I think they are operating in a completely structured salary scheme. And the MDs of CVCs, I don't want to insult anyone, so I would say next question, please. I don't know. I think it's way less than in the open space.
I can tell you what I've seen, and you tell me if I'm wrong. I can tell it because I can tell a number. It would be around 250K.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the first limit when it comes to fixed. And then the second question is, how advanced is their carry system in CVCs?
That's a great question that you should, yeah, because first, you may have a lot of perks, you may have even a big bonus, and then the carry, that's a different discussion.
Yeah, and that's where it lacks.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Great. So, with all of this that we know, is there any most relevant skill that it helps you grow in every position?
I would say it's adaptation those days, and the eagerness to learn every day and to really get into this prompt engineering right now, into the low code, no code environment, and to challenge your processes and your tool landscape each and every day towards that, right? I mean, the first of a kinds are always quite hard to adapt, I guess. But now they're the seconds and the thirds of a kind, and a lot of tooling is out there, and each day you have new tools. You have to make sure that you're not missing out on the biggest levers, the biggest catalysts for your business. And I think this creates a lot of FOMO, but you need a strategy to actually get that into your system and into each and every department and every person on your team. Because I think it's real, and AI will be able to support us in a lot of cases, but also will be able to be better than you are if you're not able to leverage it.
Yeah. So, and we talked that the biggest impact that you can see right now is probably in the junior positions. So people decide not to have a junior because with an intern and AI, you get a very good analyst. What are the jobs that will not be that impacted by AI from what you're seeing, if any?
I mean, we thought AI wouldn't be as creative and as good and well suited for filmmaking and stuff, and now this was actually the first big bang, like half a year ago. We thought it would be more on the other end, so labor, etc. But now you see the robotics and how robotics actually are also picking up their speed quite a bit. So I wouldn't dare to say there's one specific skill set that is completely hedged towards AI. But trust and human interaction in a lot of deal making topics, sales, fundraising, etc., I think is still one of the most dominant ones that we also see right now, that being in person at events really makes a big difference regarding your sales output. Yeah. And even with our core customers, if I meet them at events, I get so much more intel and so many more ideas about where we could support than it is the case in our digital fixes. So I think this is still worth, or actually getting worth more and more again.
Yeah, true. I'm thinking that it could impact many, many different roles. Sales again will be impacted positively by this.
I think in the first place now for the next 2 years, there's gonna be a lot of jobs that are at stake, and AI will take over a lot of that. And then at some point, we don't know anymore if it is AI or not, and maybe we are only sure if we have this person across our table and we can touch and speak to them, and then it can also bounce back. But I'm not in the position to look into the future there regarding the next 3 years, because it's nearly impossible to forecast.
And let's see how regulation acts as well. But um, one question is on the employee side, kind of how to know where to go next in your professional career.
Yeah, I think if you're very opportunistic, look at where the money is allocated towards. I mean, what is VCs doing right now? Where are the big shifts also regarding the corporates? Look at the stocks, look at the stock developments, and you know which are trending, which are not. But I think my advice for everyone is make a list of startups and companies on, like, example in Munich, and look at the entire ecosystem and write down which of those products, which of those brands, which of those visions and missions are catching you in some way, and which are not, and why. And this, I think, is the perfect approach to your heuristics. And then you also gonna learn about yourself, like what is driving you, what is motivating you, what is most important for you, and then yeah, you should focus on those on your top 10 list, and don't wait for job board posts to be published. Think about the hiring person or your boss at that company that actually could hire you, and approach them directly. I think this would be my advice there.
But then they will take you out of the picture if they do this. So if they go straight to the
If they can do that, I'm not able to help each and everyone who is job seeking. It's so much harder to actually find a job for a job seeker than vice versa. But yeah, I mean, the candidate market at the moment is really proactive. A lot of competition. I mean, a lot of startups are now filing or have filed for bankruptcy. A lot of others are still trying to get their bridge in place, and struggling quite hard. So everyone is now looking for a plan B and plan C. So our clients can feel that as well. You have more applications, but maybe less committed, because it's just their safety net at the moment. And still, I mean, the market is so far away from the market 5 years ago, where you could not find talent at all. Now it's, I think, the other way around.
yeah. And I have one last question. And is there anything that people always tells or that people never ask about talent that you think it should be asked? Something like, funny, people never ask about this, and for me, for you, that's key.
We're always trying to ask our clients, do you have KPIs, or can you tell us when would that person be successful after 6, 12, and 18 months? And how can you measure that? Like, it should not be just gut feeling. It should be like, okay, how do you measure that? How do you assess that? Because it's very important to really use the first 6 months as a probation period for both sides, right? So you have to make sure that you have your right questions and your quality assurance KPIs in place there. And then the more senior the role gets, the more impact also that it should have on the strategic side, and the main milestones you have in front of you, and you have to reach for a new investment round, etc. So you should really ask yourself how to assess the success of your hires. And I think also the hiring quality should be measured across the entire company. How many people are you actually offboarding within the trial period versus how many are you actually offboarding in months 7, 8, or 9? Because then something was wrong with your trial period. And then what is your tenure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess I'm thinking now about sales of the time. Sales again in this will exceed the rest of the roles because I'm trying to think why sales is so important. Besides of the obvious, that is sales and is what moves everything. But sales normally they're very good with KPIs. And they say you need to sell this and this and that, or you need to get this and this and that client by this time, and then with this margin, blah blah blah. And from here, I will take your bonus. So they're very good with KPIs. So probably they also do better scouting and recruiting because they are very keen on what other goals, what other KPIs, little by little, detail by detail.
Yeah, it's true. But I mean, there's a lot of there are a lot of startups out there right now who are dealing with sales cycles of 1 to 3 years, right? And then it's really hard to assess just by KPIs or just by deals made. You need more than that. And you should always try to also get opinions from the team and also maybe from potential clients that are in the deal funnel right now. Like, how do you feel with that person? Able to assess that. I think that actually also makes sense.
Got it. Andreas, is there anything else that you want to say?
I love the setup here. I love the view. I loved your AC. Thanks for sharing. And thanks for having me.
My pleasure. No, thank you for coming. And probably if we have any comments, maybe we need to bring you back again. But so far, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao. Done? Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like on the VC CVC side, like really